On April 22nd, 2024, I was sitting in my house watching television with my family. As I idly scrolled on my phone during a particularly boring section of the show, I saw people discussing the students occupying Cal Poly Humboldt. I'd heard about the protests happening across the nation in places of higher education like Columbia, but hearing it this close to home wasn't something I expected to see. So I looked deeper into it and watched from afar as police arrived and the situation became violent. A helicopter was flown overhead, circling the building for some time before the law enforcement presence gave up the goat and left at around 11 p.m. Since then, a large encampment of protesters has sprouted up around Siemens Hall in solidarity with those occupying the hall itself. I took it upon myself to go down there and talk to the people on the ground and see why so many people came out to stand up with these students. Hey, so can you state your name and what you're doing here with the protest?
Yeah, my name is Jasmine, and I am here in solidarity with the protesters holding it down inside, who are demanding a divestment of the university from funding and collaboration with Israel, who are demanding that no charges be leveled against protesters inside or outside, nor any academic consequences. And I'm here to support a free Palestine. I'm here to support an end to the occupation and an end to the genocide of Palestinians, and to support a free Palestine where all people have equal rights and representation under a law that benefits all people.
So why Siemens Hall?
Siemens Hall is where admin is so far as I'm aware.
Gotcha. All right. So how'd this all come together?
There was a bunch of groups in the community who were thinking that some big change had to take place, and this was born out of it, is my understanding. I wasn't really involved in planning, but I have been here since like 8:30 last night, holding it down. I think it started around 4.
Mm-hmm. What was it like seeing the police come in and the helicopter flying overhead? Did that shake your belief
I wasn't
at all?
here when the police were being violent, but honestly, if anything, seeing that from friends who were here just made me feel more steadfast. I think you have, like here at Cal Poly, you have people who are like crying out to be listened to when we call for like ethical use of our money that we pay towards our tuition, and when we call for a free Palestine, when we call for land back, not just on our land here, but like globally. And I think you see people crying out and like screaming and yelling, trying to get their point heard, because let's be honest, like peaceful protest gets ignored. And you see that here, you see that in the United States in general with the number of like rights violations that we see daily. And you see that in Palestine with the human rights violations that are being recorded daily. And at a certain point, leadership, be it the president's office here or the Israeli military complex and government in occupied Palestine, you see this clear reaction where leadership does not want to listen. They want to subdue and they want to control. And that's unacceptable. That's unacceptable when this is a public school that is paid for by like our public funds. Students have a right to like choose where their money goes, and a right to transparency for where money goes.
For sure. Is there a good way to support you guys right now?
The best way to support us right now is to be here, is to have bodies here. They've closed the campus through Wednesday, which means they've pretty much said hold it out at least through Wednesday. So the more bodies that we can get here interacting, building community, doing art, making signs, eating food, making food, distributing resources to folks who may need resources, that is the best way people can show up for us right now.
All right. Thank you.
Of course.
Afterwards, I wandered around and tried to get further interviews, but nobody was willing to talk to me on the subject. I noticed that, as the press, people had a fear that I would misconstrue them, and mostly stonewalled me. This was their movement, and they wanted their message out, on their terms. I was not, in their eyes, on their terms. My experience wasn't all doom, gloom, and hard stares, though, as there was an impromptu dabki lesson in the quad. Dabki is a traditional Levantine dance often seen in the region of Gaza and Palestine. It is a dance for joyous occasions, and amongst the crowd learning, I saw a lot of joy. If it weren't for the signs speaking of the grave genocide in Gaza and to free Palestine, it would appear as an impromptu celebration. They danced for love of the Palestinian people who were under the Israeli occupation, and love for each other. As I left for the day, I noticed several bands beginning to arrive to play at the protest. One of the bands said that there were supposed to be 6 different local bands playing that night in the quad. The rest of the campus was deathly quiet. The heaviness of what they were protesting for was apparent in the utter silence surrounding Siemens Hall. Talking with people in Eureka, it seems that very few people had any idea that there was a protest going on at all. But when I was standing in the quad, it felt like the whole world was shouting for a ceasefire. Only a half a mile away, the world was saying nothing. On the afternoon of April 23rd, I found out that the campus was to be shut down for the weekend. It seems that the occupation will continue, as there has been no apparent word from the administration as to the fulfillment of the students' demands. Their demands are as follows. For Cal Poly Humboldt to disclose all holdings and collaborations with the Zionist entity. An academic boycott, cutting all ties with Israeli universities. To divest from all ties to the Zionist entity, including companies complicit in the occupation of Palestine. To drop all charges and attacks on student organizers. And an immediate ceasefire and end to the occupation of Palestine. Stay tuned to Redwood Voice Community News for more updates on this as it unfolds. For Redwood Voice Youth Media, I'm Sebastian Monroe.